Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I brought both of the meditation books with me today, so I thought that we would start the week off and the first day of fall, because today is the first day of fall, September 22nd. I thought that we would start the week off with some meditations to kind of set a foundation for the week going forward. I have no idea what these meditations are, and I haven't done meditations in a couple days in these books because I saved them for this channel. So if we'll go back and look at the meditations for the last couple days and see which ones kind of speak to my soul to read. Let's get in here. September 22nd. So today's, it's really short. Trusting ourselves. Yesterday's was letting go of urgency. That might be a good one. And the one before that was spontaneity, apologies. Apologies might be a good one. What's before that? I think the one before that I did. Letting the good stuff happen. Okay, you know what, actually, let's just kind of like read these words. Let's do apologies first. From September 19th. Sometimes we act in a manner with which we are less than comfortable. That's human. That's why we have the words, I'm sorry. They heal and bridge the gap. But we don't have to say, I'm sorry, if we didn't do anything wrong. A sense of shame can keep us apologizing for everything we do, every word we say, for being alive and being who we are. We don't have to apologize for taking care of ourselves, dealing with feelings, setting boundaries, having fun, or getting healthy. We never have to change our course if it is in our best interest, but sometimes a general apology acknowledges other feelings and can be useful when the issues of a circumstance or relationship are not clear. We might say, I'm sorry for the fuss we had. I'm sorry if what I needed to do to take care of myself hurt you. It was not intended that way. Once we make an apology, we don't have to keep repeating it. If someone wants to keep on extricating an apology from us for the same incident, that is the person's issue. And we don't have to get hooked. We can learn to take our apologies seriously and not hand them out when they're not valid. That part. When we feel good about ourselves, we know when it's time to say we're sorry and when it's not. Today, I will try to be clear and healthy in my apologies, taking responsibility for my actions and nobody else's. God, help me figure out what I need to apologize for and what is not my responsibility. I think this is a really great meditation. And, as I'm reading these meditations, my head just, always goes in a lot of different directions. So before I got sober, I've shared this story often in my videos and often over here. Before I got sober, anything I would get in trouble for, I would just say to my dad specifically, I'd say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And more than one occasion, but I do remember this one incident. My dad said to me, I don't ever want to hear you say I'm sorry again. Because to you, sorry just means forget what I just did. Because you don't take any action, you don't look at your behavior, you don't try to change it. And I remember after I got sober, I remembered having that conversation because in recovery, when we talk about making amends is really it's like taking responsibility for your actions and then changing or making an amendment to what you did to your behavior so it doesn't happen again. And so, like if you go to any 12-step meeting, what you'll hear people say is, an amends is not I'm sorry. Like you'll hear that a lot. Like people will say, an amends is not I'm sorry. And I believe that to be true. And so there was a long period in my life where if I did something or whatever, like I really struggled with, I didn't struggle with taking accountability. I struggled with saying I'm sorry for it because of what my dad said to me, because I thought the words were trite, because I thought that for me just to say I'm sorry would come across to people my life that I really cared about in my life like I was just trying to get out of it, which was not the case. I was wanting to rectify the situation. And it would always go back to that conversation that I had with my dad, that I'm sorry is whatever. But what I realized over time was that an I'm sorry also matches my actions, and my actions show that I'm sorry, and my behavior changes, that there are a lot of people out there. Just because my dad did not like the word I'm sorry doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that need to hear the words I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that do. And I'll be honest with you, I am somebody that when somebody apologizes to me or says, I'm sorry about hurting your feelings, or I'm sorry about forgetting that we had plans, or I'm sorry about this, or I'm sorry about that, that goes a long way for me. Especially if it seems genuine and authentic. And they back it up with not just, I'm sorry, but like, I think that's kind of how I probably was. My dad was probably like, I can't believe this happened, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, I'm sorry. Not like, I'm sorry, this won't happen again and this is my plan going forward, To me, an apology of saying I'm sorry means a lot to me today. So, and I think I had to learn over time that there are a lot of people out there that really want to hear the words, I'm sorry. I'm sorry means a lot to a lot of people because they've never heard that in their life. They've never heard anybody in a very small way take any accountability for anything. They grew up in toxic, chaotic families where grandparents, family members hurt them and never said I'm sorry, still haven't to this day. You know, I mean, I have friends of mine that are 60 years old and they'll, you know, have a conversation with their mom about, you know, like, well, when I was growing up and this happened, they'll be like, you're older now, you need to get over it. Like, when all they really want is just, if they even would just say, and they didn't even feel it, like, I'm sorry, it would go a long way. You know, sometimes even just hearing those words is acknowledgement. To me today, when I say I'm sorry to somebody, I do back it up. And I do say, like, I'm sorry, that was not my intention. I kind of explain what happened in that situation. And then I'll say going forward, I'll make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I try to match my words as best as I possibly can, you know, and do my best to not. And those are learning moments for me. Those are learning experiences for me. One of the things I got into, and I think this is a very codependent behavior, one of the things I did through the years that I got very used to doing was where I would just apologize for everything. Like, have you ever been that person? It's very doormat mentality. And I've been a doormat much of my life where I just allow people to treat me a certain way. I'm not that person today, but there was much of my life that I did, that I just let people treat me a certain way, speak to me a certain way. I don't know. I don't really, you know, I've unpacked that a lot in therapy. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily come from my mom and my dad because I had great parenting when I was growing up and they were very loving and kind to me. I don't know if it came from being bullied. I don't know if it came from me being scared of the world. I don't know where it came from. But needless to say, coworkers, even friends, people that I dated definitely in the past, you know, just people in general at gas stations or wherever in the world, I let belittle me and talk down to me. And I had this doormat mentality that, like, you know, like, let's just use a gas station, for example. Like, if I'm coming out of a gas station, I've got a fountain pop in my hand and a bag of chips or whatever, and somebody barrels through the door and I was obviously going through it, I'm the person that would back up and go, oh, I'm sorry. You should be. Is what they would say, you know? And I'm like, I didn't even do anything wrong. Like, you weren't paying attention to where you're going, but I apologize because that is how and I'm not saying that I wouldn't do that today. I would probably say, excuse me, and I would step to the side or whatever, but I wouldn't make an incident out of it. But that was who I was for a very long period of my life, was that I would apologize for things that I had no part in just because I wanted to clean it up, you know? And I think that's the other thing is, like, today, I don't have tons of people in my life. I have my husband, I have my best friend, you know, I have a couple other friends, you know, I have my sponsor, I have my therapist, I have family. And so we all know each other, you know, like, I'm good with everybody that is in my life today. We're close. We know how we speak to each other. So, like, they know what an I'm sorry means for me, and I know what an I'm sorry means to them as well. And I don't take responsibility, and neither do they, for things that they're not responsible for. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, and I don't, to be honest with you, I think there are people that move through this world that have never taken accountability or responsibility for anything. I don't think they've ever been put in a position where they have to. I think, you know, because of some of my other channels, I think that there's like this misconception that I like demand accountability from people. That's not really how it is, in all honesty. I think it's more like I have learned the power of taking accountability in my life, and I would love other people to share that as well. Because once you realize that you can take accountability for things that you've done or hurt other people, there's a level of autonomy and there's a level of control that you have over your actions. Because once you realize I am accountable for this thing that I said or did, or the way that I hurt somebody, or a mistake that I made, and then I take responsibility for it, I take accountability for it, that also gives me the power, because somebody else can't change that about me. I'm the only one that can change that about me. So that is me being aware of it. And then when I have that awareness and that of what I need to do to change it, then it's up to me to change it, right? When there are things that, like, you don't take accountability for, then you just go through life and I'm not a happy person if I'm just hurting people all the time and I'm not even aware of it, right? When I'm aware of it, then I can fix it and I can repair those relationships, and ultimately I'm repairing myself. Ultimately I'm becoming a better person, you know? So me suggesting that somebody take accountability is really love. It's really saying, I want you to live the best life possible. Because the more that I take accountability over in my life and I realize that I have a part in, this is a big part too, the more that I realize what I have a part in, then I can only fix my part. I can only clean up my side of the street. But recognizing what I have a part in also allows me to recognize what I don't have a part in. And there's a lot that happens in this world that I have no part in. And there's a lot that happens in my life that I don't owe any apology for and I don't have any accountability for. There's a lot that happens in this world. And so today I take accountability for the things that I need to own. I apologize for the things that I have done or if I've hurt somebody. But those things that I am not a part of, I don't. I step away from. That's not mine. That's not mine. I don't own it. And I don't think you should either. And I think that doing that work allows us to realize we do have control over a lot in our life. Because at times, like I think that I'm sorry at the door of the gas station is me feeling like I have no control and people are just kind of like, I mean, that's an analogy. But I felt like that for a lot in my life, that people were just slamming doors in my face and I was apologizing for stuff that I didn't even do. No, I don't do that today. I don't need to cause an incident out of it. But I'm also not going to take responsibility for something that I didn't do, you know, and neither should you. And it's a much more peaceful way to learn. And, you know, and I'll take things to my husband or my therapist or my sponsor and be like, do I have a part in this? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, absolutely. My best friend I talk to about all the time, you know, or I talk to her, not about her all the time. I talk to her all the time about it, you know, and like, I can remember back in the day with like when Alex and I started dating, I'd be like, you know, do you think that I owe an apology? And she'd say, yeah, I think you do owe an apology. Like, you know, you need to make the situation right. I'm looking over here at his pillow like he's right here. But anyway, and then other times she'd say, no, you have no part in that at all, you know? Like, no, not at all, and let it go. And that's been powerful to me because I can ask people if I'm not sure around me and they'll be like, yeah, you do have a part in that, or no, you don't own it. I, for years, owned shit that I had no part in. Excuse my language over here. I owned, I don't cuss a lot on this channel. I owned stuff. And what I mean by that is I took responsibility for things that were never mine to take responsibility for. I don't do that today. If it's not mine and I didn't have any part in it, I don't own it. You go talk to that person or you take responsibility. That's not about me. And I'll look at somebody and I'll say, if they bring something to me, I'll say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I really do. I don't want you to be hurting over this. But I don't take responsibility for that. That has nothing to do with me, you know? So, and see, I just said, I'm sorry about something. But no, I don't even know that I would say it that way. I'd probably say, it makes me sad that you feel this way. But no, I didn't have anything to do with this. So, I'm not in this, you know? And that's how, and that's how I deal with it today. I just do, you know? Or if somebody will say something to me, I'll say, I mean, I can take a look at it and see if you think I have a part in it, but I really don't think I do, you know? And I don't apologize for people's feelings either. That's another thing I don't do because I own my feelings. My feelings are my feelings. If somebody else has feelings over something, I don't apologize for their feelings. I apologize for my actions. And I think that's what we need to do. But I had to really realize that I'm not in everything, you know? And sometimes I've got to realize that other people aren't in why I'm upset either. And sometimes that's about me, you know? I've gotten upset over situations that later looking back on being like, oh my God. And then I owe that person an apology and be like, you know what? Like, this was never about you and I shouldn't have made it about you, you know? And that's where, like, I think you realize where you're in it and where you're not. Anyway, this meditation kind of went in a direction I didn't think, but I liked it. So we'll just stop there today. I love you guys. And you know what? Going into this week, this is going to be our lesson for the week, okay? Let's apologize and take responsibility and accountability and on the things that are ours. The things that aren't, we're going to let go. We're not going to be mad about it. We're not going to be mean about it. We're just going to let it go. It's not about us. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.